Hello, my friends. I welcome you to another show of Adhitya Talks. And today we are going to talk to a very interesting person, and she is Miss Noam Gerstein. And well, she is a person who is doing innovation in Germany, and she's a very interesting person, and she's doing the work in the field of edtech, and it's very interesting. So let's get on with the interview. Welcome to the show, Miss Noam.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. So pandemic has challenged and shaken the core of many industries, and I was some of them are having a really hard time recovering and going back to normal. The education sector is of course one of them, and with its unique challenges to school management, teachers, and of course students and parents. So can you please shed some light on how the world has changed and how this change poses as a problem to spread proper education to children, which was anyway a problem during pre-COVID era.
Yeah. I think when we talk about going back to normal, I think we should always understand that, what normal is going to change, and as it should, right? And you know that the word crisis in Latin, it means a turning point.
Yeah.
And there's something about all of us globally, and together experiencing a very really dramatic mutual experiences in the face of the pandemic. It makes us as individuals and us as societies reconsider many things. What is important for us? How do we want to lead our lives? And where do we want to live, right? And obviously, how do we educate? How do we use our time? How do we think about being a parent? How do we think about being a teacher? What is important in those aspects? And so, as devastating in many ways, and as hurt, as seriously painful for the educational system and for all the individuals within it, this pandemic has been, I think we can look at the lessons that it has taught us, and I think that's kind of at least my prism. Obviously, in terms of my field specific, edtech is one of the sectors that grew tremendously much, and I think and just like in other sectors, education has been exposed in terms of teachers have been exposed because now they don't close the door, and it's their space, right? Everybody can see them.
Yeah.
Parents can see how teachers are behaving, right? Their skills are exposed, right? Systems are exposed in terms of how well they organize things, right? Or how not well they organize things.
Yeah.
Students are exposed because it's not like they can hide in the classroom. They can hide in it. There's something very overt about conversing digitally.
Yeah.
It's super interesting. And in terms of, we don't talk about this a lot in education, but learning is something that's very intimate in many ways, right? It's a social experience. And obviously, there are a lot of intimacies that were taken away from us with not sitting in the same room. But there are a lot of intimacies. For example, you see my workspace.
Yeah. But what would yes, yeah, please continue.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So what could be the possible solution to solve these problems, especially maintaining quality education for children?
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, what Bina is working towards is what we call precision education. And so, if you think about let's say you and I, let's imagine the best, most amazing classroom ever in the world, okay? We maybe have 15 students, and there's a wonderful teacher. Let's say there are 2 wonderful teachers, okay? And they're sitting, and it's a beautiful setting, and it's great. Still, most of the class is going to be either over-challenged or under-challenged, because with the democratization of education, we design the curricula for the center of the bell curve. But the center of the bell curve is, is just another data point.
Yeah.
So if you don't understand, if stop me if like there's something, but I'm sure you understand everything. I'm not gonna. But maybe I'm not clear. But we design curricula for the center of the bell curve. And so if we think about what are the wonders that we can gain from not only teachers' eyes on students, but other types of information that we can look at and analyze, we can get to a place where we can craft precisely the education every child needs for them and keep them in the group. So let's say, for example, so we can, the easiest way to imagine it is, we've moved from mass producing pills in a single dosage, let's say like pills for migraines, right? There's like 20 grams of whatever active ingredient within the pill for a migraine, and you can buy that, right? And we're moving, the medical sphere is moving from that to crafting precision med, where based on each patient's data, we can craft the right medication for them. And we kind of think about like that about education. This is how it should be, right? You should never be bored, and it should never be too hard for you because that's not fun.
Yeah, of course. But like for now, how does Beena Beena School plan to impact every household in elevating kids' standards?
Yeah. So we aim to build a system that is inclusive to educational innovation, and that is really like a complete educational system. So it's not like after school program, but it's literally the school. So we do that in two phases. The first phase is a private school, and with them, for them, we build the product and the brand. After that, when we can offer, when we already have that, and we can start offering this publicly, we're offering accreditation, teacher training, and obviously the apps and curricula that's inside for educational systems, which means that parents and families are not going to pay to be a Bina student, but it's more the educational systems and philanthropy. So yes.
Okay, so for a better understanding of our audience, can you please assist in comparing a normal school educated child with a Bina alumni? How do these students differ in thinking? And how do these students differ in making a difference in the world, and of course for themselves?
Well, I don't know really, right? Because we don't know who they are. I can tell you what's the difference in their day. For example, Bina students don't get kicked out of bed at 7 o'clock in the morning and shoved into a class, right? They wake up calmly, have breakfast with their parents, have their first and second meeting while their parents are answering their emails. They might go to the office with their parents and sit in a designated area with other kids from that office, do their work calmly, have lunch with their dad, okay? Be picked up by their mom. There's something much more agile and flexible about their life, and it's built to really fit who they are. So this is one. Second is we've divided the teaching profession into two. So they have teachers that teach them subject matter, and what we call guides, which are people that work with them on communication skills, on self-organization, on projects. So let's say like, this is the person that will say, "Good morning, how are you today? Oh my gosh, this is your new airplane. That's amazing. What are your goals for today? How will we know you achieved them? Okay, let's look at your schedule. Let's look at your surroundings. Is it appropriate for your work? Right? Let's make sure that your audio works." And so there's something about practicing communication skills and practicing self-organization that is not offered in school right now, and is very, very important. And that's crafted for them.
Of course.
And the last, we have a very clear understanding of what our students know, what they can do, and to which depth. And so at any given time. And so we don't test them because we always know. But also we can really help understand what would help them. So we can say, for example, let's say you and I are playing multiplications to the moon. Okay? You win. I get stuck at 7 because I do. Right now, when you practice and I practice, maybe I can give my work to the teacher and like 2 weeks later he'll give it back to me and I can put it in the bin because that's what we do. The idea is to make the feedback cycle super short, so I get immediate feedback, but also get to a place where we understand like what happened. Like, is it your peer? Is it lunchtime? Are you hungry? Or is it 7?
Yes. So now your life is like full of experiences and research on diverse topics. I read your like I saw that, and you are not a usual founder who thinks of an idea and takes action. It seems that you have made a great research on how we can improve the quality of education and utilize the technology like to impact global audiences. So can you please throw some light on your story and the detailed background, including how you developed this interest or like in this noble cause of grooming kids to the highest standards?
I think there's a lot of founders look for a problem to solve, and I am of the founders that are haunted by a problem. I never wanted to be a founder.
Oh,
It's just that there's something I need to fix. So after I sold my first company, I was 26. I lived from investment, but what I did was I decided that I really am interested in early years education for 2 reasons. One, I think societally speaking, it's the most impactful anyone can ever do. And in the long term, and in the short, it's the most impactful for the weakest parts of society, mainly women and children, which I happen to care the most about. Sorry. So what I did was I sat in schools all over the world and I interviewed students and parents and teachers and administrators to understand what they think, how they feel, what works for them and what doesn't, and why. It's a much more I didn't have an idea that I wanted to impose it. I just wanted to listen and to see how I can help. And I think what occurred to me is that like when we think about what is the role of an educational system, we need to ably prepare for participation in society. That's what we do. Right? And when we do that throughout history and throughout different cultures, it's almost always done by reflecting the society, right? Like you mirror the and what we're doing now mirrors a society that doesn't exist. And so the pain that it causes for students, that it's like, you hear like 6-year-olds, they're sweet, they're like, so like, hi, what are you like? Why are you going to school? It's like, I don't know. They don't, and it's sweet, but it's true. I know I have to. It's like, why? And you hear it in like parents that are just pained that they're missing their children's childhoods completely, and teachers that are like underpaid, overworked, and overstretched, disrespected in society, and it's a shame because it's the most important profession.
Of course.
Kind of, and so in the last year of this research, I interviewed mainly education professors and people from the business and developmental psychologists, and this is basically how I met John, which is one of my partners, and we've been trying to work at it ever since. But a lot of startups think about like move fast and break things, like that's the way to go. I was like, I really feel that just standing there and thinking about it is really the way to go.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Exactly. And we have a very clear idea of what you think should be done. You should gently stand on the shoulders of giants that were there before you and try and improve.
Yeah.
Gently. No breaking
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. So now, can you please explain the backgrounds of your team, because they are the thing that make this mission actually possible.
So as I mentioned, so that's me. John has been everything education. So he was a teacher in various places in the world. He was a headmaster. He wrote curriculum. He opened schools and school networks, and did a lot of worked a lot of teacher training. He's a professor, and he mainly works on his research. Mainly revolves around educational leadership. He's phenomenal. He is literally a walking, talking encyclopedia, and a really wonderful, wonderful man. So that's him. Zach has studied mathematics to start with. He does mainly data. Most of his career was in data pipelines and vision, which is very important to what we do. He's kind and warm and very wise interpersonally, which is very interesting for people in this field.
Yeah.
Very dear. So these are the three founders. Then we have Joe, which is a marketer, and he's brilliant and funny and has done many, many things in his life and is very proficient. And Jamie that does most of the operations, and we're hiring. So, and then obviously the teachers. The teachers, though, are the main kind of event.
Yeah, they are the main people actually.
We're just there to serve them.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so that was interesting, of course. Now, what is the uniqueness you think that makes your team, which makes your team robust and unstoppable to break the ice as compared to the conventional schools, which are running currently, and what makes your team stand out actually?
Well, I mean, first of all, we're doing something very very unique. Unlike a lot of schools, and also a lot of in the landscape of digital education, it's almost never cohesive, and it almost never includes such small groups or such small classes. So the offering is a component of that, but in a different way. I think as a team, it's the ethics. Okay, so in the end of the day, we're building a data set, right?
Yeah.
For us to be able to understand if it's 7, if it's lunchtime, or if it's my peer, right? We need a data set. And I think the ethics of and the depth of how we think about what is okay to do with that data set. That we only improve teaching and learning. We do nothing else, right? That we are always explainable about how we collect the data, how we store the data, how we use it, how we analyze it. And it's not like press an I agree button, but we actually take the time and talk to people and explain to them why and how, and explain to them that they own it. So that's also very important. Obviously, we try and train our algorithms on data sets that are non-biased. So so it won't think the fact that this boy happens to be white makes him the best in class. Right?
Yeah.
So and that's the last one is hard to achieve, but I think there's unlike a lot of startups. I mean, we are mission driven. We're not there to win the market. We're there to make it much better for everybody.
Yeah. You're there to solve the problem actually. Yeah. So it's always a challenge to start with a new idea and to make new parents. Parents have the old mindset. The school is a school, and we went to school, so the school is the best. So it's always an challenge to break the break the friction actually, like, and make like parents to get to adapt to the new system. So what kind of challenges you are facing to get students like to enroll in your like idea, and what gaps do you find in the understanding of parents to adapt like to the future challenges? Are they supportive, or are they like completely ignorant of the value which they need?
Mhm. So I think there are two things here, which you first of all, great question. There are two things here. One is um, in education generally, and especially when you try and do innovation in education, uh, it's about building trust,
Yes,
right?
of
And it's
course.
interesting. It is both the most personal thing you can do. Choose your child's education, right? It's your baby.
Yeah, of course. So that's a thing. They can compromise on that.
It's the thing you care most about in the world, but at the same time, it is also the most political,
Yeah,
which is kind of because education traditionally is the strongest propaganda tool ever, right?
yeah.
And so there are a lot of forces in this market, and there are forces that have been there traditionally. Now, for the moment, building trust is obviously our main concern. We want to make sure that we are worthy to educate these wonderful little people,
Yes.
uh, and that we do that well, and that we're tuned to our families in ways that you can never get from a normal school. So
Mm.
that's one. The second is that we really um, that we that we think very closely um, uh, about how we interact. And the last is we're not for everybody, not yet. The people that choose us are people that are nonconformists, that have lifestyles that need us in in
Yeah,
in a, in a, in a different way. These are, early adopters tend to be, as crazy as the founders.
yeah.
um, in the sense that we're building a community with a community, and they are part
Mm.
of what we're building, and they feel that,
Yeah,
and I think that's
yeah.
part of it.
Okay. So, considering that I am underage, like I am under 10 years old, and I want to join Bina school from India, suppose this is a suppose thing. How can you convince me to enroll, like for the next curriculum to join in?
Yeah, all right. um, I think actually we found that like convincing kids it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, yeah,
um, yeah, because if you think about your alternative, but usually we will have them meet both the teachers and the guides. Um, we will walk them around our immensely playful system,
yeah.
where you can kind of interact in a gamified way with your friends from all over the world. We found that really one of the most exciting things for our students is to have friends from all over the world and learn with them together every day. That is really
Uh,
cool.
I don't. So the Beena school is expanded all over the world, meaning a child from India can join in also.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, okay. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
So
But
so yeah.
if you're from India, you wouldn't necessarily have Indian peers.
Okay.
So it is
Uh-huh.
very well you study with a child from the UAE, and a child from Israel, and a child from Germany, and a child from uh, Ghana,
Okay. So
and that's
that's
cool.
that's really interesting. Okay, so like now let's talk about the teachers. Since Bina, like teachers have average 10 to 15 years of experience to classroom teaching, mainly in offline mode. What specific challenges you face like in making them adapt and train them to be suitable and and your mission, right, like ready to teach and develop kids through the online mode?
Yeah. So first of all, excellent question. And we really find that in many cases with teachers, it is not the same type of teacher, nor it's in many times it's not even the same type of person that would be a great in class teacher and a great online teacher, right? Because it's kind of like what happened when we moved from theater to cinema, okay? Where like the actors were still screaming and making like really big faces. It's a different medium. It requires very different things. Like if you think about an amazing classroom teacher, many times like they'll use their size, right? Because like they're big and all the kids are like, wow, you're so big, I really want to listen to you. And it doesn't work in this medium because everybody's the same size, right? If you are great classroom teachers, many times are very good at being immensely concentrated on what they're saying. But actually, in the digital space, you need multitaskers, because if you're talking about an elephant, there better be an elephant like walking in the room, right?
Yeah.
And so what we look for when we hire are people that are more agile this way and that carry screen, right? That like, you know, they have this expressiveness in their face and their playfulness in other ways. And then we train for that. Like we train the tools, we train how we converse, we train and this is really John's area.
Yeah. Okay. So, what is your like 5-year plan to grow Bina School?
Mm-hmm. So in the first 3 years, we only built this. We basically do a cross-subsidy development of the product and brand, meaning we're building a private school that is geared for millennial parents and families and for their employers. So basically, if you want to attract and retain talent, and if you want to diversify your workforce, you can work with us and offer this as an employee benefit for your company. So that's one. And this is what we're only doing that for the first 3 years. And from the third year on, we start offering Bina as a service, which is basically school in a box, right?
Yeah.
So what we offer is the accreditation, the teacher training, and the apps and infrastructure.
Yeah. Okay. So, did the COVID pandemic affect Bina? Like, and how?
Well, first of all, we literally started when it started, so it's like,
Oh.
So, I mean, I think in many ways, I think if when I talked about what I think should happen to the educational system a year ago, I mean, I had to explain that it could be a reality, right?
Yeah. Now it is a reality, actually.
Now I need to start to say, like, of course, like 6-year-olds can sit in a classroom and on Zoom, like on video chat. Like,
yeah,
people are like, of course, yeah, they can. It needs to be done better, right? We need to build tools that are made for kids. It needs to be a wonderful experience. There are amazing things that we can do, but the principle has been proven for us.
Yeah.
Now we have to think about how to make this experience fabulous and attractive.
Yeah, of course.
And how to use and how to use data.
Yeah, so I am sure like you must be aware about the Byju's, and so like several Indian startups in the same space. How do you think Beena School is placed with the unique proposition to add value in the same competing markets?
It's not exactly the same competing markets, actually.
Actually, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Please continue.
There are two things. One is in most cases, they don't offer full schooling, right? They offer lessons. And in a lot of cases, they also sell to the school. So there's a very different sales cycle.
Yeah.
But and it's a little bit like, you can see this in the States also. There are a lot of offerings that are that are even synchronous learning, but still they're not cohesive education, right? They don't offer this end-to-end education, and obviously there is, the analysis of each student, which is very different.
Yeah. So, which other edtech startups are doing good to elevate education globally? What do you think about them? And if you would like to mention any of them for something which you really find like good, and has inspired you in your mission.
Oh my God, people are doing amazing things. Like, education space has like the most fabulous things lately. Like, I can't even, like, it's gonna take us days to finish the list. It's I mean, Kitty Science are doing amazing work. Obviously, like Brain Pop and Matific are doing amazing work. Khan Academy is fabulous. Like, people are doing great work. There's like, yeah, there's endless. And I think what's exciting about this space is that there's a lot of room for collaboration and for integration.
Yeah.
So, so I think, yeah, I mean, I'm happy also to, like, if you want, I can forward like my favorites, or if you guys can all like follow us on Instagram, and we kind of clap to people that we think are doing wonderful things. So maybe that could be, but EdSpace is filled with brilliant people.
Yeah. So, like, how does Bina's curriculum be different and unique from other schools? Because that is the major thing that you have to convince the parents that our curriculum is better than the normal school curriculum.
Yes and no. So we do two things. First of all, we don't operate in a void. So we do adhere to the U.S. standards, and we do comply, like, and we do work around like the IBPYP. So it's not like, and we cover and exceed that. But the way we build curriculum is a bit different. We tend to, we're very fond of taking narrative and overarching it. So let's say, I'll just give you an example. Let's say we had like a 2-week module for 7-8-year-olds where we worked on fairy tales. So we looked at Cinderella story, and then we looked at different Cinderella stories from all over the world, and we compared them. And so when we compared them, we talked about what are the differences and what are the similarities, right? So we understand a little bit about how different cultures see similar stories, and why do we tell stories that are similar as humans. So we understand a little bit about human experience. We understand a little bit about different cultures. And then, we look at the geography. So we learn like how to read a map, right? How do we think about mapping things, right? And so we learn geography through this. And then they had to, and then we calculate the diameter of the carriage and we multiply the mice, right?
Yeah.
And they had to write a new Cinderella story of their own. And so they had to both produce content and edit each other and work collaboratively and end with a project that is really like a broad project. But through that, we really kind of touched on all the other subjects and really covered the standards.
Yeah. So you're gamifying the curriculum actually. You're just making it into a game so that it gets more interest from like children. So that's a very interesting thing. And as per your experience, please advise key skills that every child should learn to prepare for future challenges, and why.
I think listening.
Yeah.
I think it's really, really, really important to. I think it's hard when one is young. It's really hard to be humble because you really want to show that you know.
Yeah.
But even between friends, and even between yourself and yourself,
Yeah.
I think being able to be attuned, and be present and not distracted, and be generous with your thoughts and your time, is I guess these are for me like the key
Yeah.
skills.
Yeah. So now, how is technology playing a key role in changing the face of education, and how will it continue to do that in the future?
Well, I really think that precision education is the next thing, right? We're not going to do boring things anymore because we've had enough. There are many ways to make curriculum fabulously interesting, right? If we don't like multiplications, then we'll play multiplications to the moon. And if we don't want to do that through the moon, we will be able to walk to the center of the earth with goggles. So like we can do just phenomenal fun. That's all educational.
Of course.
So I think
Yeah.
the first thing is going to be just the idea that in the end of the day, you know, education is humans entertaining themselves. And we need to embrace that. It's amazing. So that's one. I think it's going to be much more entertaining. The second thing I think is it's going to be much more precise. So we're going to be able to really craft for each child, not only what they know, what they can do to which depth and thus like where, but how's their daily cycle? Like, how's their mood? Like, how did they have a fight with their mom? Okay. And really kind of consider that when we offer learning.
Yeah.
So that's education. And the last, I think, has something to do with much more consideration, both on self maintenance in a deep way. So like, how do you think about
Yeah.
yourself? How do you communicate with your friends? How do you organize your time? How do you organize your space? So things that are about being functional today, which requires a lot of autonomy. And the last thing I think, my generation was educated to be independent learners. And I think
Yes.
your generation is going to be educated to be interdependent learners.
Yeah. So now, specifically, I would like to ask a question: what kind of data engineering do you do to learn about the kids' behavior to assist Beena to give the precise education, like customized for the child? And I mean, how do you collect this data and and process it to give a customized experience for the benefit of the kids?
Well, the frankest answer is we're still working on it, and I hope we will be working on it for forever. Right?
Yeah.
Depends on the tools that we use. But in very specific way, a lot of what we do is curation and integration. So we say, like, here's an amazing tool that does science, right?
Yes.
This is where we chemistry. Okay, so we want to bring it in. What we do is we connect with that company and we share the knowledge. But what we do is, because we basically are building the data set. So basically, both from third party and from whatever is on our platform.
Yeah. And now I have an interesting case for you. This is happening in India. Many new ventures, like such as White Hat Junior, maybe you have heard it in India, are coming up these days, which mainly focus on technology education to children, specifically coding based. What is your view on this? And do you think coding assists kids in their development?
Well, I mean, I think languages of all sorts assist development, right? Because it's just another. It's another color for your glasses, right? It's another way of thinking about anything, right? Coding is one of them. The vast array of languages and math and other things are others, right? So I definitely think that as a mind game, it's worthwhile, especially for those who love that. I think it's very useful with planning. A little bit like chess, right, or other games. It is also a closed ecosystem, right? We don't scientifically know that it correlates to other things in life.
Okay. Yeah, of course.
Oh, I mean, it wasn't, of course, like there were years that we thought that, like, if you can play chess, you're great at strategy. And apparently, if you can play chess amazingly, you're just great at chess. And that's great.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, uh, and so I think practice and skill are wonderful no matter what. I do think that in the end of the day, humans are going to do less and less coding.
Yeah.
Like, so really practical skill, probably not, because by the time you would be growing up, these are this type of code writing is
Skill.
not going to. It's not going to be
Yeah.
something that humans do.
Yeah. That's an interesting perspective, actually. So there are like pros and cons of online education. I had a debate on this earlier on the national TV of India with other children. It will be good to know your views as to where online education misses something which did not miss in the conventional system during your schooling.
Come again, please. So online education does not include something that I did have. That's the
No,
question?
no, I'll repeat the question. It will be good to know your views as to where online education misses something which you did not miss in the conventional system during your schooling. So basically, what is not there in online education that is there in conventional system, which is going right now, like
Yeah. Well,
offline.
I mean, many things, right? From like being able to hit the kid near me, and like, which is important for my development, and like, a lot of information about the kids that are my peers I don't have right now, right? Because if I was in a classroom with you, I would know how you smell, and I could assume like what you've been eating.
Yeah, of
uh,
course.
so that's one. There is something very compelling about like being many kids in a classroom, and I think but the question is does it have to be a classroom, and do they have to be learning together, or can they do other activities, and what are those activities? So I think if it's when education is solely digital, it needs to be complemented with offline components. I do believe in uh, climbing trees together, smelling armpits, like being alive,
Yeah,
and touching each other, literally.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's very important, like playing soccer, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah. Now I think mainly issues such as human connection, because see, communication skill is like one of the most important skills. Then people management skills also come into the role, like into the play, and discipline and physical activities. Actually, these are the things that suffer during the online mode of education. Is there any way we can try to fill these gaps in the future?
of course. Like, are you kidding? Um, obviously, like, just imagine you and I playing hockey on the moon.
Well, yeah, with VR, that is
For
possible, maybe. Yeah,
example. So I think a lot of it will be there, and some of it should not be there. Like, some of it should be, you're done with your class, go outside.
yeah.
uh,
Okay.
I mean, in terms of the vision, and this is really important, in terms of the vision, Bina will have three, like a student in Bina will have three components. Building we're only building the digital one now, but basically there's other lessons are live, active, collaborative, real time with teachers and peers, but digitally. Second is hubs, so offices, cultural institutions, for example, a museum or a library, where there's a designated area for the kids in a multiple age setting. And the last is what we call experiential learning, which is curated activities that are local for the community to get together and do together.
Yeah,
Like cleaning the ocean, to playing soccer, to going to see an exhibition.
yeah. So is online education actually cost effective for parents? Because even if the most of the parents are convinced, the biggest like block in the road comes cost effectiveness. So is it cost effective for for parents? What's Bina's case?
So again, like there are two folds of how we're building this, where the first is a private education. Is it cost effective? It depends on like what you find is effective and what is the cost of it. But in terms of our price right now, it's mid-range private education for globally. So it's not expensive and it's not expensive.
Yes.
In terms of where we're headed, the idea is that this would be offered as public education, which is very cost efficient for the parents because they're not paying.
Yeah. So what is your view on like making education so education cost effective for all, even the poor category of the poorest of the poor? Because in the future, if your idea works, then it will online education will be everywhere in the world, so there's no like means to go to offline education. Then what will the poor children go do?
The same. Hopefully, I think in many cases, it's much easier to drop, and it will become more and more easy, and the ease will increase. First of all, it would be much easier to drop some tablets rather than to start building a school, and to have us train teachers than to start finding them in areas where they don't exist. So actually,
Yeah.
there's a lot to say about this as a huge tool for democratization of education. We can also do amazing things like teach from a very young age, like offer education and educational talent for places that this was never available before.
Yeah.
Right? So I think with the help of both governments and philanthropy, we can really reach the poorest of the poorest of the poorest of children and reach them early, where we can still do a lot for their education. So the
Yeah.
earlier we start, the more we can help.
Yeah, but coming back to that, some areas in the world, of course, are places where no internet is there. Actually, on the mountain side, there is no internet on the mountains. How will a child do the class? Because this is actually a major problem in in many places around the world.
Yeah. 5G in 5 years, like 5G is going to be almost everywhere.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it is a problem. It's a major problem, but it's a major problem right now. In 5 years, it's not going to be such a major problem.
yeah. Okay, so that's interesting. Now, do all parents have an option to get the trial classes before making up their mind?
Yes. So not
Yes.
only them, we too, right? We need to make sure that we're a good fit, not only for them, but also for us.
Yeah. Okay. So, what is the what is the student's selection or admission criteria?
First of all, we take really young children usually. So we try and understand how their families operate, if they can support them with this kind of education, if they're right now, right? Because we're early phase. And as I mentioned, like we build the community with the community. So we want to
Yes.
make sure that the early adopters are both very excited with the mission and
Yeah.
can support this, like that they have the ability uh, to and then there are other things, like for example right now we teach solely in English, so they need to have stable English in place, for example.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you plan on just make expanding from just 10-year-old to maybe till graduation, till high school?
I actually don't have interest in that, and there are several reasons. One is there are really good schools for those ages. There is a lot of work in our field as well, of a lot of really great innovation for the older ages.
Okay.
Younger ages are not dealt with, but they're the most important.
Yeah.
I would rather invest more in doing our work better, or in broadening the reach of our field specific work, than like aiming for older groups. It's like this.
Yeah.
There's a very specific time, and also they're ruined already.
Well, but in the future, some of your alumni will become 10 plus. Then what about them? They will have to leave Bina, right?
We will teach until 12,
Yeah.
and then they go to middle school. I mean,
Yeah.
and there's several schools that we're in contact with, so like there is a natural move that they can do.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Now please tell me some role models which you have been inspired by most, and why, in doing this mission.
Oh my god. There are a lot. I mean, throughout history,
The main ones.
like from
Main ones.
Main ones. I mean, I think some writers from Grace Paley and Mary Oliver, and people that just constructed who I am. There are some, even my partners obviously are really inspiring. I have some very trusted advisors that I learn a lot from. I'm a big fan of a lady called Rose Larkin that runs the UCL education and data ethics. And her writing has been
very
immensely inspiring.
That's very interesting. So now, can you please advise 5 books or lesson which every child should read or keep in mind to have maximum impact in their life, to build their character and personality to face the future challenges of this world, and why?
I really want to, but I'm actually running out of time. Well, I guess 2 things. One is stories are the best, and myths are amazing. And I don't know that there are like books that you must read to build your character, because it depends on who you are. And I would never give like the same recommendation to 2 different people, because I think they need different things.
Yeah,
it's a little bit like
yeah. So now please advise me 2 people whom would you like to see on this show, and why?
From what field?
That's your choice, actually.
Yeah, I don't know enough.
2 people whom you would like to see and learn from on the show, actually. Yeah. No one.
I would think about political activists, especially in the field of climate. There are many.
Yeah.
And I would think about people that work, people that lead medical research.
Okay. So thank you for that. And lastly, I hope you enjoyed this show, and please advise, this is the last question, please advise the unique thing you liked about Adhitya Talks, and any suggestion for like which should be incorporated to improve the experience for our viewers.
I enjoyed you. You're lovely and curious and wonderful, and I'm grateful. Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I think practice makes perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for coming on the show. It was really a good experience to talk to you. It was very good. So thank you for coming on the show. My viewers, thank you for watching till the end. Now I hope we have more discussions like this, like these, Miss Noam. Well,
thank you so much. Thank you very much. All right. Bye.
Bye.